convocamos a continuación al CEO invitado de este año. Normalmente en cada edición nos visita el responsable de un servicio realmente relevante en Internet. Por aquí han pasado, por ejemplo, Biz Stone de Twitter, Matt Mullenweg de WordPress, David Karp de Tumblr y el año pasado estuvo Jared Hedge de GroupMe. Este año recibimos a un canadiense de 30 años que ha creado una importante comunidad de fotografía, una red de calidad donde compartir, descubrir y comprar imágenes. Ese sitio se llama 500 píxeles, 500 pixels, y hoy lo conoceremos de la mano de su creador y consejero delegado, su CEO. Él nos contará qué fallos cometieron, cómo consiguen crecer en sectores donde otros se ahogan y donde hay un claro líder. ¿Puede un fotógrafo hacer negocio gracias a ellos? Eso y mucho más nos lo va a responder. Dice que en una primera parte de su charla nos presentará el servicio y que sobre todo le interesa charlar con vosotros, que le expreséis vuestras dudas sobre este tipo de servicios, sobre el tema de emprender y ponerse al frente de un servicio emergente en Internet. Así que id anotando las preguntitas porque él sobre todo quiere charlar con vosotros y responder a vuestras dudas. La charla la podéis comentar con el hashtag 500pxebe, 500pxebe, y podéis ir haciendo también preguntas por Twitter con 500pxebp, 500pxebp. Él tuvo su primer ordenador a los 9 años. Desde entonces no se ha separado de la tecnología. En 2007 empezó a trabajar en lo que es hoy 500 Pixels. Desde Canadá recibimos con un fuerte aplauso a Oleg Gutsol.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. My name is Oleg Gutsol, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company called 500 Pixels. We're a social space for photographers, and we focus on the best quality photos in the world. Today, I would like to talk to you about how we started, how this was created, what we're doing now, and what we're doing in the future. You're probably the first audience that will hear this story end to end. Very few people know it. Many people know bits of it, but nobody heard the whole story. But I'll share it with you tonight. It started with this. I was 10 years old, and we were visiting friends of my family in the Netherlands, and one of them decided to give me a ride on the motorcycle. So, being 10 years old, I was thrilled. I was blown away by the bike, and I thought that this is something I would want to do in the future. And this is how I met my co-founder years later in Canada. I met Evgeny, and we shared this passion for motorcycles. So this is how our friendship started, and later collaboration. Evgeny launched 500 Pixels in 2004 as his passion for photography, and he launched it as part of the LiveJournal community because there wasn't any better framework that he could use at the time. So he did that, and his interest was to gather the best and the most interesting photos at the time. And he imposed several restrictions on the community, one of them being all the photos had to be 500 pixels wide, hence the name, and then we carried the name going forward. But all the photos had to be that size so they fit the design nicely. And the photos had to be good, and they had to be selected by the team of editors, and the 5 editors needed to agree on all the photos that were submitted. So that's how we went. It was going well for a while, and after some time he decided to launch a site which was very similar to a blog that he was running, and he found a designer and a developer to help him do it. And in 2006, they together launched the site, and I wasn't involved at the time. We met. By then, we have met already, but we were not working together. We were just friends. And he launched the site with some programmers, and it was going well. But because the system was so restricted, because it required manual processing of all the photos, there was very little content that was going through. A very small number of photos would actually appear on the site, even though they were of great quality. So the model wasn't very scalable. And the site had a moderate niche that it took, but it wasn't growing. So I met Evgeny. I joined him in December of 2007, late 2007, and I thought that the project deserved a better attention than it was getting. But at that time, we were both heavily traveling. I was in and out in Peru, and he lived in Moscow, and he ran another startup at that time. He was just hired as a CEO for a different startup. So our attention was divided. And the idea how to turn this into a business didn't really form in our heads yet. So for about a year or so, it was brewing, and we were thinking of what to do with it. And so that was going on for a year. And at the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, we both went back to Canada. We decided that it is time to take this seriously, and we both went to Canada to start coding. And in about 6 months or so after we started, we launched the site. We work primarily out of my apartment, so this is us launching when everybody else outside my window was partying. Halloween parties was going on. So, so we launched. We closed the site down. From the previous system that we had, we pretty much scrapped it. We exported just the email addresses, and we probably had 1,000 people at that time that used the site, and we sent them the invites. And primarily, we did the invites to control the experience that we had on the site. Our main concern was, we didn't want a lot of people to see the bugs that we might have in our code, and also to control the load. The site would not crash, the moment that we launched it. But it created an interesting dynamic. When we did the invite-only launch, this created the artificial scarcity. People were really interested in getting and finding out what the new site was, but they couldn't do it. So they started, it was funny to watch. We saw people trade our invite codes for other sites' invite codes, and they tried to sell them on eBay and so on. So we did run like that for a couple of months, and things were starting to pick up, but it was a very small scale, and we didn't have many resources to dedicate at that time. We were bootstrapped for 2.5 years of the lifetime of the company, and we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary launch. So not having many resources, we did a lot of the things ourselves, and it should be noted that a lot of the things that we've done, we did for free. Like this, for example, was our server that a friend of mine loaned, and we ran the site for 2.5 years using a Mac Mini that, using my connections, I was able to put into one of the hosting co-locations in Toronto. People still don't believe me when I tell this story, but this served several million monthly visitors using an SSD drive, and all the photos that were on the site at that time were on a separate hard drive attached to this Mac Mini. But it worked. We also didn't have any money for marketing, or we didn't have any people to dedicate to marketing properly. So we decided to do things slightly differently, and we started hosting a series of events called Models versus Photographers, when we invited local photographers and just people in the community that we knew, and some models to come and shoot some photographs together. We provided coffee and muffins and fun time. So people were really interested, and some of the photos turned out really well, and people were seeing the dynamic where, with encouragement, they would be taking better photos. So that was pretty successful. It allowed us to grow early on. But as a two-man company, we just did everything ourselves. We were a little overwhelmed at that time. But me being a developer and Evgeny having interest in design, although none of us have formal training in design, I do have formal training in computer science and Evgeny's business. We were really interested in it. We saw it as an extension of our artistic qualities, and both interested in photography. We were also interested in art. So we coded and developed the site together, as well as ran system administration and business development, and talking to investors and trying to find us an office space, and dealing with the growing traffic and so on. So it was tough, but it was a fun time. Also, speaking about free, we mostly worked out of our homes and out of various cafes. Starbucks was our favorite, probably, because it provided free internet and cheap and decent coffee. So it allowed us to work there unlimited, really. Well, it was open pretty late, so we loved Starbucks for doing that. At some point, we also converted Evgeny's apartment later on into an office, so he could no longer live there, really. It was just a whole bunch of spaces, a whole bunch of desks that he had in the space. And in the early 2009, we got into Ryerson DMZ, which is a Ryerson University startup initiative to promote new startups and new businesses in Canada. And they gave us space and a few computers to work on, which was great, which was all we needed at that time. And the best part was that it was free. We didn't have to pay for it, and we didn't have to give out equity. Traditional incubators would probably want equity from your company if you join, probably 5 to 10%, depending on where you go. But with DMZ, we didn't have to do it. And we also got to hang out with various other companies that were there and share resources and help each other. Some of the people that were within the space moved from companies to companies, and if you needed some development help or some design or some business advice, you could really get it. So that was very helpful. And at about the same time, we started to bring in money into the company. For 2 years or so, we ran. The site was free, so we ran using our own money, and we put quite a bit into developing the system and supporting. And most of our expenses were traffic and our own living expenses at that time. And at the beginning of 2011, we started bringing in some revenues with the launch of the Awesome accounts, which allowed our users to create portfolios and have unlimited uploads to the site. Previously, we did limit the number of uploads that the user could have, mainly because of the space constraint and some space restrictions. But the premium accounts didn't have that anymore. So that was going on okay, but we didn't see significant revenues to the company just yet. At about the same time, we were looking for investors. And honestly, we didn't have much luck with Canadian investors in Toronto. Most people that we talked to liked the idea, liked us, but didn't really see a viable business model. Most of the social enterprises were launched in California and some in New York, but investors in Canada tended to be somewhat conservative, so they didn't really get it. Then we tried something different. We tried expanding our search in the US and beyond. And we came across AngelList, which was a tremendous resource to us at that time. And this is where we actually found our current investors. And I think we will do this in the future as well. But this is where we connected with FFEC and Shanna Fisher and Josh. Abramovics, who are our current investors, John found us on AngelList, and he liked the business, although he didn't. At first, he didn't understand, what it would be, but having several conversations, he got really excited. So it was great. Also, the founders of AngelList themselves helped us perfect our pitch and helped us with some business advice, which was also great because we wanted to talk to smart people, and the circle and the network that we had in Canada were kind of exhausted at that time. So we got funded in May of 2011, and that allowed us to grow significantly faster. During the next year, we grew the team from 2 to 12 people. We were still, at the time we were closed around, we still had 2 people working on it, and that was Evgeny and I. And we needed many more developers and just much more help in general. But with this growth came problems that you did not anticipate as a smaller startup. Some of the scalability issues that we faced were just stability, and something like needed to migrate hosting and just upgrade the service that we were running. We moved from Mac Mini. By that time, we have moved from Mac Mini to Amazon. Most of the images were moved before, and around the same time, we moved to EC2, which is the cloud instance hosting that Amazon provides. But that didn't save us. Amazon was not very stable, and we had several disasters. One of them nearly killed the company. And that was during summer of 2011, where Amazon overnight decided to shut down our database servers, and we basically corrupted, had our data corrupted. And at the same time, our backups ran out of storage because we were not quick enough to upgrade the storage on the backups. So that nearly killed us. We nearly lost all of our data. It took us a day of downtime to sort things through. We did recover, but after that, we were paranoid about backups. If the only thing that you do right is you back up your data right, and you do it in multiple locations, and you test the recovery mechanisms properly, that was the hard lesson that we had to learn, but fortunately we did, and we moved on. Another one was space. At that time, and by the end of the year, we were kind of growing out of DMZ. They couldn't provide much more space for us, and we needed to hire more people. So we started looking for a new office, and currently in Toronto, this is a difficult problem. Apparently, commercial real estate is valuable and hard to find. Many companies are starting up and going up, and there's quite high demand for this. So we're continuing to grow at present. Our plans for the future is to increase the size of the company. Currently, we have about 30 people. Our future plans is to increase it to, say, 50 or 60. We still need to develop a lot more products that we dreamt of. So that's coming up. One of them would be the iPhone app launch, which is coming soon, in about 2 weeks, I hope. And also, our big dreams is to be the leader of photography spaces, is to be the destination for professional and amateur photographers to come and explore, to get inspired, to share their work, and to sell it if they so wish. So that's what we want to do. But the question is why start this at all? Why did we do it? And mostly we did it because we were both passionate about photography. We both got into photography at about the same time, and we were looking for a space that would provide us the inspiration. We wanted to learn. We wanted to get better. We wanted to show the world what we were doing and how that, we wanted to see if that mattered at all or not. So we were looking for platforms to help us do it, and LiveJournal wasn't the perfect one, and we started to look beyond that, but nothing really existed. And that predates things like Flickr or Instagram or Facebook or the like. So at the time, we decided to create our own, and for the longest time, we didn't get to do it because we were not really focused on it. And platforms like Flickr, like Instagram, like Facebook, not Instagram at that time, but like Facebook, got developed. But that passion for the highest quality photography, for the highest quality experience never left. And once the idea fully formed in our heads, we decided to build it. But why photography? Why did it matter to us so much? So before I answer, I want to show you some of the photos that we have on the site, and then I'll tell you. Those are some of the things that you daily see on 500 pixels. There's some amazing photos that we get to enjoy every day. I think photography is a powerful emotional medium. I think photos have an amazing capability to capture your attention and to emotionally engage you, unlike any other medium there is. And sometimes a photo does make you stop doing what you're doing, and you stop in awe, and you just observe the beauty of the moment. And this is why we really did it. Thank you.
Bien, tenemos preguntas para Oleg. Preguntas para Oleg. Recordemos además el hashtag que es 500pxebp. 500pxebp. Oleg, I want to make some questions. I imagine that the patience and being constant is very important when you are creating a service like 500 pixels. But it was some moment that you think, okay, this is not working, we are going to let this, we are giving up.
Yes, there were many moments like that. Most of the time, you do doubt, you don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't want to say that I have monthly occurrences of things like that, but I do have them often, and I just have to trust myself and trust the people that I work with, the co-founders and the guys that work with us, that we will get through. I think there's a greater purpose to what we're doing, and I think we almost have to do it. We cannot give up. So that helps us get through. Looking back, it's always fun to remember things like that. But yes, at times you feel like things are not working out, and you don't know if you got yourself into the right thing. Trust yourself. You have deep down inside, you usually know. So if something's wrong, you know, and if something is right, you do know. I know that this is right, so we'll just go. We get through, the hardships and the difficulties that we encounter, and usually things work out well. So usually we worry too much about things that may not have happened in the future at all.
¿Alguna pregunta en la sala? And how do you feel now that the thing is growing? I imagine that it is not so easy to manage a place with 5 employees than another one with 50 employees. How do you feel right now on this moment?
It is different. You know, working with just one person, or 5 people, or 20 people, or 50, or 100, there are different stages of starting a company. So yes, the dynamic will change, and maybe, you know, you may be good as a founder, you may not be very good as a professional manager later on. So it's really up to you. At some point, if you realize that you're not good, you have to step out of the role and then just do something else. Maybe you need to hire some other people that will help you get through. I personally think that you need to build a network of trusted friends and co-workers that will help you with the things that you're not good at. And you just have to trust them. You know, people usually want to do a good job, and they want to help you if you ask them.
I have a question from Twitter. Antonio Diaz says, having Flickr on the other side, how are you working to get them out from there?
So we're not working to kill Flickr. In fact, we never set out to compete with Flickr. And Flickr didn't even exist when we originally had the idea. I think this is something to keep in mind. I think Flickr was in trouble for a long time. I think it was a great team that got discouraged when Yahoo acquired them. I think things may change for them. But I also think that we're doing different things. You know, their interest is in storage. Our interest is in the greatest possible photography, the greatest world's photography. So this is our focus. Their focus is not the best. Their focus is just images. So I think that's how we're different. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
¿Alguna pregunta en la sala? It doesn't matter. Which importance do you give to the photography on the social web? Do you think there is more important than the video in some times?
I don't think it's more important. I think those are different. I think photography has a greater power because it's easy to consume as a medium, as content. Video, you need to dedicate time. Also, high-quality video is harder to produce. So I view photos and videos being different things. I think photos are more important. I think because it's so easy, and because it's so quick, and because it's so descriptive, photos have greater power. So absolutely, it is important. If you look at most of the things that are social on the web, they're mostly photography. Facebook is the biggest photo storage. Flickr used to be the pioneer of social and photography online. Instagram was a recent example, and a multitude of other apps are all indicators of photography being one of the most powerful mediums of communication.
I have another question from Twitter. Is from Anonymous. He says, how did you divide the company attending to investment?
I'm sorry,
How did you divide the company attending to investment?
So before we had an outside investor, we were 50-50 with Evgeny. Now there's a different share structure, so that when the investors come in, they do buy a share of your company. So there's a certain percentage that goes to them. We have a director on board right now, so the board right now is 3 people. That's how it's done.
Can you tell us who has participated on the financing round?
Yeah, there are 3 investors. It's FFVC, Highline VP, and Deep Creek Capital. They're all New York based. They're early stage firms, and they're very helpful. Besides money, they provide connections and business advice and guidance, which I think is very helpful. I think, you know, if you want to raise money, if you want to have investors, You want the smart money. You want the people who can not just give you cash, because capital is something you can get access to. Smart capital is scarce. So you want to work with the people, and investors become the people that you will work with the most, or one of the most. You want them to be very helpful. They want to understand your business. They want to be passionate about your business. And we were lucky to get people like that.
I have another question from Twitter. Henry 2 Man says, what was the biggest challenge at the beginning of 500 pixels?
Biggest challenge. So at the beginning, there wasn't a big challenge. I think one of them was figuring out, what we wanted to do, how we can do this, so that more people see it. Most of the time since launch, nobody paid attention to what we were doing inside within Canada, and we were trying to get into various events and demos and things like that, but they just didn't get it. But we knew from the users who really liked us and requested updates and features and so on, and they were really engaged, that we were onto something great. The challenge was to convey this to the people who have not yet experienced 500 pixels. So that was one of them. There's a whole bunch of operational challenges that I can probably talk about. That was not at the beginning, since we had 2 people working on the system, so it was very easy. Financing it was probably a little hard. We almost drained our savings accounts. So I remember for a few months we were running, hand to mouth. But we got through.
When you win, it's good, but the process is the worst part.
Yeah, and from the outside, you look at any company and it looks like their path from being unknown to being something really good that a lot of people are talking about as a straight line, but it never is. It's never the case. So on the outside it looks really easy and like a smooth ride, but on the inside it looks nothing like it.
Which advice could you give to somebody that is on the first step? For example, I have an idea and I want to develop that idea. Mm-hmm. What do you have to tell to this guy that is on the beginning of the process?
Yeah. If you have an idea and you can develop it, do it fast, do it easy, do a prototype, see if anybody likes it. Try to find a co-founder. Try to find somebody else interested in it. If you can get somebody else interested in your idea and join your company at that time, or co-develop your idea, this is great. This is already a good indicator of idea having legs and a possible future. And if it doesn't work, try again. Maybe the idea isn't great. Maybe the execution is not great. Maybe you have to do something else. So yeah, the standard advice, and I think we share it, is that fail fast and move on. If it doesn't work, try something else. If it does, stick with it, and just trust yourself.
Now it comes that moment of PR. Why we have to use 500 pixels?
Mm-hmm. You get greater exposure than any other social network that we've seen. In fact, on average, a very interesting photo or an interesting photo gets 1,000 times more exposure on 500 pixels than on anything else, including Flickr. So that's one of the reasons. We do provide a greater and a better user experience than most social networks. We do provide professional tools for your development and promotion, and we provide a marketplace where you can sell your photography if you wanted to do it, which is also a financial incentive to our users.
Can the photographers earn some money being on 500 pixels?
Yes they can. So as I mentioned, we have a marketplace that allows you to sell and buy photography, and we're sharing the commissions with photographers. We're paying 70% of all the proceeds to the photographers, unlike companies like Shutterstock or Getty Images or the like that pay 20 to 30% of their commissions to the photographers. And those are billion-dollar businesses, and I think they're greedy businesses, and I think that's a potential for disruption in that area. So yes.
Okay. Pues con un fuerte aplauso vamos a agradecer a Oleg Gutsol,
Thank you.
que nos ha presentado 500 Pixels.
Before I leave, there's one other thing that I wanted to mention. Can we have the slides up?
La presentación. Ahí está.
So,
this is the one more thing, no?
It is. It is a one more thing, and I'd like to thank you guys for inviting me to speak here, and I'd like to give you back something in return. For all the EBE12 attendees, we're giving out free accounts on 500 pixels. What you'll need to do is just register and email our support at support@500pix.com with your username and your badge, and you will get a free awesome account. Thanks.
Un aplauso, fantástico regalo. On the subject, you have to tell them that they have to put La lluvia en Sevilla es una maravilla. The rain in Sevilla is wonderful.
Yes.
La lluvia
Please
en
do
Sevilla.
share. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Oleg.